Next and the final topic in this unit is the consistency limits. Consistency limits are mainly defined for the clay soils because these depend upon the water contents, and water content affects more to the clay soils than it does to the gravels and sands. So till now, as we saw the soil grain properties, and now we are moving to the soil aggregate properties because these are defined for the whole soil mass. So consistency is defined as the relative ease with which a soil can be deformed, and so as I said, it is mostly used for the clayey soils, and depending upon the water content, the soil mass is divided into four zones. It is solid state, semi-solid state, plastic state, and liquid state. So this is the graph showing that variation. As we keep on decreasing the water content, as we go in this direction, the volume of the soil sample also decreases. But this does not keep on happening. At one point, it attains a constant value. Further, if we decrease the water content also, it will occupy the same volume, and the volume reduction will not go any further. So these limits will define, these are the water contents. So at liquid stage it is called the liquid limit, at plastic stage it is called the plastic limit, and similarly it's at between the solid state and the semi-solid state it is called the shrinkage limit. So after the liquid limit, the soil mass acts as a liquid. If we disturb the soil mass, it may start to flow, and the between the plastic state and the solid plastic stage and the liquid stage, what the boundary water content we define as the liquid limit, and between the semi solid stage and the plastic stage we define it as the plastic limit, and between the solid stage and the semi solid stage we define it as the shrinkage limit. So up to the semi-solid state, as we decrease the water content, the volume, there is a corresponding decrease in the volume of the soil. But as we move to from semi-solid to solid state, so what happens before the before the solid state? If this is the soil mass, so these are the soil particles, and in between water will be there. So water was occupying the space which can be occupied by the soil. So as we decrease the water content, we'll reach a point at which only the soil mass is occupying the space, and only the voids which are there, these are filled with water. These are not excess voids. So after that, if we decrease the water content, so the volume which we get is just because of the soil solids, and the water is just in the pores. Water is not occupying the space which could be occupied by the soil particles. So after that, there is no reduction in the volume, and if we even further decrease the water content at this point, if the water content even becomes the zero, still the soil volume will remain the same, but the pores will be filled with air in this case. So at zero water content, the pores which are there in the soil mass, these are filled with air, and as we reach the shrinkage limit, at this stage all the pores are filled with the water, and that we'll define as we go along. So let's define these limits one by one. First is the liquid limit. It is the minimum water content at which the soil has a tendency to flow upon disturbance. So if the soil is at liquid limit, so if we are disturbing the soil, it acts as almost as a fluid, but only upon disturbance. If it is in a situation, then it won't move, but if there is any disturbance, then it can flow. And another way to define the liquid limit is, let's say if there is a lot of water content in the soil mass, and if the water is more, then there will be no shear strength in the soil mass, but as we decrease the water content, we'll reach one point where it will have just very small value of shear strength, so it will resist to flow, just resist to flow, we can say. So at that point we can define it as the liquid limit. And this test is performed by the Casagrande apparatus. So in that apparatus, a sample is filled in a bowl, and that in a Casagrande apparatus, and a groove is cut. The width of the groove at the bottom, from bottom to top, the width of the groove varies. So at the bottom it is 2 mm, and at the top it is different for different apparatuses. So the liquid limit is defined as the water content at which this the groove of 2 mm closes by 25 blows. So first there is some water content, let's say, that is bigger than the water content of liquid limit. Then if we give the soil some blows, then this groove will fill at less than 25 blows. So that means we are at the greater water content than the liquid limit. So as we keep on decreasing the water content, a point will reach where we just need 25 blows to close this groove, and that water content we'll define as liquid limit. So all the soils have similar shear strength at liquid limit. So because it is behaving like a liquid, so that shear strength is almost negligible, but that number is approx equal to 2.7 kilonewton per meter square. Next is the plastic limit. So in this graph also, now as the soil move from liquid stage to plastic stage, from plastic to semi-solid stage, that limiting water content is known as the plastic limit. So how can we define it? And so it is the minimum water content at which the soil is in plastic limit. So from this graph, as we saw, this is the shrinkage limit, plastic limit, and liquid limit. So this part is solid, and this is semi-solid, this is plastic. So the plastic limit is the water content between semi-solid stage and the plastic stage. So it is moving, if we go from this left to right, so it is moving from semi-solid to plastic stage. It means the minimum water content at which the soil will act as a plastic, because if it is in semi-solid stage, then we cannot remold it. It will kind of become a brittle material. So if we put some apply some force on it, then it will break like a brittle material. But if it is in a plastic stage, then we can remold it and shape it as we require. So the experimental procedure for this is, we roll the soil in a 3 mm dia thread. So if it just starts to crumble, then it is the plastic limit. So first of all, we'll have a water content that is more than plastic limit. So if we roll it into a 3 mm dia thread, then it can be rolled easily and it will not crumble. But then we'll again decrease the water content, so a water content will reach at which it just starts to crumble, and that water content is defined as the plastic limit. And at plastic limit, the shear strength increases about 100 times than the liquid limit. Next is the shrinkage limit. One more thing I forgot to tell, this dotted curve is the actual behavior of the soil volume. As the volume decreases, this is how it decreases, but we assume it to be this curve, the flatter one. So this is an assumption. Next is the shrinkage limit. So the shrinkage limit is the minimum water content at which the soil sample is fully saturated. As I explained here, so as we are going from 0. So at 0, all the voids which are there in soil sample, if I make the phase diagram, so it is a two-phase diagram at 0 water content. This is solid and this is air. So from here we start to increase the water content. So in that stage it will be a three-phase diagram. It will be solid, water and air, and then we'll reach a point where all these voids are just filled with water and they are not occupying any space which would have been occupied by the soil solids. So again it comes in the two phase, and the pores are totally filled with water. So this is the minimum water content at which the shrinkage limit is the minimum water content at which the soil is completely saturated. And after that, as we saw from this diagram, the volume reduction is not there below shrinkage limit. So it is the maximum water content at which the volume at which above which only the volume change takes place. Below this water content there will not be any volume change in the soil mass. So for the exam point of view, this experiment is of some importance. So for this we take three readings. First reading is the uh, first there will be a water content which is more than the shrinkage limit. So there will be some volume which is occupied by the water, and at shrinkage limit, as we reduce the volume, so the volume of the soil mass decreases because the volume occupied by water changes. And so if we keep on reducing, we'll reach a point at which the voids are just filled with water. And after that, if we reduce the water content, then there will not be any reduction in the volume, and just the soil solids will remain. So here we will get the dry weight. And so we want to know this water content. This is our shrinkage limit at which the soil is just saturated. So shrinkage limit is a water content. So water content is defined as the weight of water to the weight of solids. Weight of solids we can easily find out because the final weight which will be remaining in the experiment will be the weight of solids. So weight of water can be given as weight of water. We want to find out this weight and we know this total weight. So let me write weight of water. We can write as W1. W1 is the weight of this initial sample which we have taken, and from this if I reduce the weight of solids, so it is giving me this water content, this whole. Now I want to reduce this part, so I can get this water content. So how do we write this above water content, above part which is filled with water? We can write it as V1 minus Vd, that is V1 is the total volume and Vd is the dry volume. So this is the volume between the two, and if we multiply it by unit weight of water, so this gives us the water content at shrinkage limit. And if we this gives us the weight of water at shrinkage limit, and if we divide it by the weight of solids, so from this we can get the shrinkage limit. We can, from this same experiment, we can find out the specific gravity also. So specific gravity, we know it is given as Ws upon Vs gamma W. So volume of solids we can write here as weight of solids is we know already. So volume of solids can be written as V1 minus W1 minus Ws upon gamma W. So volume of solids, how we have written, V1 is this total volume and W1 is the total weight, and if I deduct the weight of solids, so I'll get the weight of water, and weight of water if I divide by unit weight, so I'll get this volume of water. And V1 if I did from V1 if I deduct the volume of water, so I'll get the volume of solids, and this multiplied by this gamma W. So from here specific gravity can be given as weight of solids, V1 gamma W minus W1 minus Ws. This is formula for specific gravity, and from this specific gravity we can find out the shrinkage limit as W is equal to water content at shrinkage limit, so weight of water to the weight of solids. We can write it as Vd minus Vs into gamma W on weight of solids. So Vd minus Vs is also the volume. So Vd is this volume and Vs is the volume of solids. So Vd minus Vs will give us the volume of this part, and multiplied by the unit weight of water will give us the weight of water divided by weight of solids. Now volume of solids we can write, because we know the specific gravity, so we can write it as weight of solids to the specific gravity times unit weight of water, the weight of solid. So from this also we can find out the shrinkage limit. And one more definition here is shrinkage ratio. So it is defined as the V1 minus V2 upon Vd into 100. So it is defined as the change in the volume with respect to the dry volume and with respect to the corresponding change in water content. So this we can further, if we are seeing the change from V1 to, if V2 becomes a dry volume, so at that point here water content will become the water content at shrinkage limit. So we can write this equation as V1 minus Vd on Vd divided by, so this difference will be the, this difference we can, this is the water content. So water content we know is the weight of water to the volume of, weight of water to the weight of solid. So weight of water we can write V1 minus Vd into gamma W divided by weight of solids. So this will cancel out, from here we will get Vd Ws, sorry, we get shrinkage ratio is equal to Ws upon Vd gamma W. Now the weight of solids and that divided by dry volume is the dry density divided by unit weight of water. So this is one more formula for shrinkage ratio. Next is the plasticity index. So plasticity index is the range of water content in which the soil remains in plastic stage. Again in this graph, this is solid stage. So if this is liquid limit and plastic limit, so in this stage the soil remains as plastic. So this is what we define as the plasticity index. So plasticity index IP is equal to liquid limit minus plastic limit. It depends upon the amount of clay present in the soil. And so what happens here is clay minerals, because they are like this plate like structure, so they have a high specific surface area. And in clay minerals also some clay minerals will have higher specific area than the others. So higher the specific area, more will be the capacity to absorb the water. So if the soil can absorb more water, so what happens, it has absorbed the water, so it can remain as a plastic mass and it will not start to flow. So if the plasticity index is more, that means that the soil can absorb more water and it can remain in the plastic state. So there are some values of plasticity index and consistency. That is, if it is 0, then we call it as non-plastic. If it is less than 7, we call it as low plastic. If it is 7 to 17, it is medium plastic, and for greater than 17, it is highly plastic. And if the soils with large plasticity index and liquid limit, these are called as fat clays, and soils with low IP and WL, these are called as lean clays. Next is the consistency index and liquidity index. These both are useful for defining the soil state in the ground, on the ground. So consistency index is denoted as WC, and it is given as WL minus natural water content divided by WL minus WP. So we can see from here, if the natural water content is equal to the plastic limit, then this ratio becomes equal to 1. So if soil is at plastic limit, then this is denoted as IC. Then IC is equal to 1, and let's say if the natural water content is equal to the liquid limit, then IC is equal to, this is 1 and this is equal to 0. And similarly, liquidity index is defined as W natural minus WP divided by WL minus WP. So this is the opposite of, as we can say, complementary of the consistency index. Now if the natural water content, in this case, if it is equal to plastic limit, so IL is equal to 0, liquidity index is 0, and if the natural water content is equal to the liquid limit, then it is equal to 1. So when IC is equal to 1, then IL is equal to 0, and when IC is equal to 0, then IL is equal to 1. So if we are moving from plastic limit to liquid limit, then we can say, if this is IC, so IC moves from 1 to 0, from plastic to liquid, and IL moves from 0 to 1. So IC plus IL is equal to 1. So we can define the soil state if we are given the value of these indices, and there are some classification depending upon these. If consistency index is greater than 1, it means that, if we can see from here, if it is greater than 1, it means that this natural water content is less than the plastic limit, because then only this numerator will be bigger than the denominator. And if it is less, natural water content is less than the plastic limit, then soil will be, we define it as very stiff. It has gone into the semi-solid stage, so we call it as brittle zone. And if it is greater than 1, consistency index is greater than 1, in that case liquidity index will be less than 0, because these are complementary to each other. So we define it as very stiff or brittle, and if it is 1 to 1.75, so liquidity index will be 0 to 0.25. In that case it is stiff, and similarly other, it is less than 0, then it is in liquid stage. So from stiff to very soft, these are the plastic range. And if consistency index is less than 0 or liquidity index is greater than 1, then it is in the liquid range. Next is the flow index and flow curve. So in the, as I said, in the liquid limit experiment, in the Casagrande apparatus, we fill the soil and then we cut a groove and then we give it flows corresponding to some water content. We will find the number of blows which are required to close this groove, and as we change the water content, again we'll require some other number of blows to close the groove. So we can plot these two values, the water content and the number of number of blows required to close the groove, and this curve we define as flow curve. And so the slope of flow curve we call as flow index. Flow index is equal to the slope of flow curve. So slope of flow curve can be given as, it is denoted as IF, that is W1 minus W2 divided by log 10 N2 by N. In this case, number of blows are on the log scale and water content is on the natural scale. From here we can make some more deductions also, like if more number of blows are required, it means that the shear strength of the soil is high. That is why it is taking more number of blows to close this groove. So in that case, if shear strength is high, so here we can say that flow index is inversely proportional to shear strength of the soil, and number of blows are directly proportional to shear strength. So it means that flow index is inversely proportional to shear strength. So it means that slope of the, if flow index is more, then shear strength will be less. Now more flow index means that the slope of this flow curve is more, because flow index is nothing but the slope of this flow curve. So if the slope is more, then shear strength is less. So if we are comparing these two flow curves, so obviously the curve which has a less slope will have a higher value of shear strength, and the curve which has a bigger value of slope will be having the lower value of shear strength. Next is the toughness index. So toughness index, it is denoted as IT. It is given as plasticity index divided by flow index. So what does it indicate? It indicates the loss of shear strength with increase in moisture content, and also indicates the shear strength at the plastic limit. So this we can relate from the flow index itself. As we saw, flow index was inversely proportional to the shear strength, so then the toughness index is directly proportional to the shear strength, and it is defined as with respect to the plasticity index, so it represents the shear strength as at plastic limit. So these indices are used for the clayey soils, and then next is relative density, which is used for the coarse grained soils, and it is denoted with Br. It is given as E max. It is E is the void ratio here, E natural by E max minus E minimum. So it is similar to the consistency index we saw for the clay soils. Here, this is the natural void ratio and this is the maximum void ratio, and again this is the minimum and maximum void ratio. So if what is the theoretical value of maximum void ratio and natural void ratio, it can be asked in the exam. So maximum theoretical value will come when the particles are arranged one over another, so these voids will be maximum. In that case, E comes out to be 0.91, that is E maximum, and minimum theoretical value will be found when the next layer is arranged between the spaces like this. And so E minimum in this case is equal to 0.35. In practically it is not done like this. Practically, to find out the maximum void ratio and minimum void ratio, what is done, if we want to find out the E max, then the coarse grained soil is dropped from some height, and for E minimum it is compacted by vibration. That's how we find out the E maximum and the E minimum value. And so there is one more formula for this. From the dry density we can find out that the formula we saw before, that gamma D is equal to Gs gamma W upon 1 plus E. And from here we find out the value of E. So E is Gs gamma W upon gamma D minus 1. So we can put the various values of E max and E natural corresponding to gamma D will be gamma D max, gamma D natural. So if void ratio is maximum, then gamma D will be minimum, because here it is coming inversely, and we can see that if there are more voids in the soil mass, then its density will be low. So where E max is there, gamma D minimum will come. So from there the formula, if we put this value, so you get the formula as dr is equal to gamma D max divided by gamma D natural into gamma D natural minus gamma D minimum divided by gamma D max minus gamma D minimum 200. Next is the thixotropy of soil. So it is the property by which the soil after remodeling gains a part of its shear strength if left undisturbed. So when this is a practical phenomena also, if we disturb a soil and if it is left for some time, it is not remain in the it does not remain in the disturbed condition. It gains some of its shear strength. So that property by which it gains its shear strength, it is called as thixotropy. And why does it happen? The reason behind this is the chemical equilibrium. So as we disturb the soil, the chemical equilibrium between the soil and the moisture and the water in this, it is disturbed. So it regains the chemical equilibrium, is regained due to reorientation of water particles. So next is the sensitivity. Sensitivity is the degree of disturbance achieved on remolding. It is defined as the degree of disturbance. So for this we need to do unconfined compressive strength test. The test we will see when we study the shear strength of the soil. So the formula for it is unconfined compressive strength of undisturbed sample divided by unconfined compressive strength of remolded sample. So we are defining how much strength is going if we are remolding the sample. So depending upon that, some preset values are given. If it is equal to 1, then it is called as insensitive. It means that it is not losing any strength. And this is the property for coarse grained soils like gravel and sand. And if this value is between 2 to 4, it is termed as normal sensitive. If it is between 4 to 8, it is sensitive. This is for silt and clay. If this value is 8 to 16, it is extra sensitive, and for greater than equal to 16, it is called as quick or unstable clay. So the value of this sensitivity can be less than 1 also in some cases. So when that happens, if the original soil sample is having some fissures or some cracks into it, and after remolding those cracks will be gone, so in that case the unconfined compressive strength of remolded sample will come out to be more than the original sample. So in that case the sensitivity will be less than 1. Next is the activity number. So it is defined as plasticity index divided by percentage finer particles, percentage of particles less than size 2 micron. So according to this is used to study the swelling behavior of soils, because if more clay particles are there, then the soil will there will be more swelling, because soil and those clay particles can absorb more water, and it is more it is maximum for the clay mineral Montmorillonite that we will see when we study the clay minerals. So depending upon the AC, some values are given. If it is less than 0.75, it is known as inactive, and if it is 0.75 to 1.25, it is normal active, and if it is greater than 1.25, it is active. So that's it for this unit. Next we will start the soil classification.